Hey guys, how you doing? Uncle Stef. So, what are the top developer trends in 2025? There's two, and then I'll break them down. So, developer trend number one is return to simplicity. I believe that developers are starting to realize that perhaps they've overcomplicated their lives with too many libraries and frameworks and developer workflows, if you will. So, there is a return to simplicity. And there's some big name developers out there who are making tons of money, loads of cash using very simple technologies, relatively speaking. And the second big trend, I think, is freelance and SaaS business building rather than getting a job. Hey guys, this video is sponsored by Porkbun, an online registrar. They offer more than 500 domain name extensions, including .com, .pro, .dev, and .xyz, and many, many more. They have very competitive pricing, and they're highly rated on Trustpilot. So that's always important when you have any company, any service, when you have outside ratings like Trustpilot, that's what you want to look for. And Porkbun has on Trustpilot over 9,000 reviews, highest in the industry. So it's definitely worth looking into. Every domain name at Porkbun comes with tons of freebies like SSL certificates, whois privacy, DNS and URL forwarding, hosting trials. This all sounds pretty good to me. All these features and tools are backed by incredible support, 365 days a year, and more 5-star reviews on Trustpilot from real customers than anyone else. Get $1 off your next domain name from Porkbun and see why they're the best domain name registrar around. Links below. Bye-bye. I believe more and more people are looking at the freelance route and the SaaS building route. SaaS is software as a service versus getting a job. I remember back in the day, 3, 4, 5 years ago, everybody was aspiring to go work at a FANG. Everybody wanted to work at a FANG. I want to work at a FANG, they said. FANG is the big companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. The FANG aspirations have diminished quite a bit, and since a lot of big companies have laid off a lot of people, at least as portrayed in, well, they laid off a lot of people, and they're not hiring nearly as much as they did during the COVID days. People are starting to go, I don't know. Also, the perception of job safety working for a very large organization, that myth, it was always a myth, has been dispelled as well. So people are saying, maybe I should build my own business, whether it be a freelance business or a SaaS business. Anyway, let's just jump into the specifics. So the return to simplicity. I got a few bullet points here. I will link to the PDF under this video, so you can check that out there. If you want the PDF, so you can have the bullet points in front of you. Anyway, number one. The return to vanilla code. Less frameworks, more vanilla code. So I'm speaking more or less about the web app development game. And for the longest time, everybody defaulted to, I'm going to develop a web app. I have to use a library. I have to use a framework. I have to use a React. I have to use a Vue. I have to use Node Express. I have to use, PHP Laravel, etc., and so on. People are realizing now that these powerful tools, these libraries and frameworks, some of which I just mentioned, Python Django is another one, they're not necessarily necessary. It really depends on the project. One of the rules I talk about often over the years is that don't look for technologies to use just because it's hot or cool. Use them only when you need to. Don't introduce new libraries, new frameworks, new layers of complexity unless you absolutely need them, because they can cause you trouble. Meaning that extra complexity comes at a cost, configuration cost, learning cost, maintenance cost. Whereas vanilla code, simpler implementations are a lot easier sometimes, depending on the project, to maintain and to find people to work on, etc. So again, one of the things I'm seeing is that return to vanilla code, the appreciation of lightweight implementation styles, as opposed to just knee-jerk reaction. I got to use React. Good old dirty PHP. PHP. So people are starting to slowly understand that PHP is not Satan. PHP is actually quite a capable server-side programming language, specifically designed for web development. As such, it has tools built into it that make it really accessible. It's really easy to get up and running a PHP-based app. All you have to do is upload the PHP pages to any server, just about, and Bob's your uncle, you're up and running. Whereas if you want to set up a Python app, a Node.js app, a Ruby on Rails app, who of course would want to do that, Java-based, C#, Python, all these other technologies that compete with PHP take a lot more work to set things up. And the configuration is more difficult. That being said, hosts are making it easier and easier. PHP, though, is just like, you just upload your PHP pages to a directory, and away you go, Bob's your uncle. Just about every server, even shared hosting, the lowest of the lowest shared hosting programs will support PHP. So people are starting to recognize PHP for what it is. It's a very powerful language, very capable, easy to train people with, very dependable. Yes, old PHP sucked, but, iPhone 1, can't compare it to the brand new Samsung. Can't compare an iPhone 1 and compare it to a 2024 Samsung phone, right? It doesn't make any sense. So you can't compare PHP from the 1990s for what it is to modern technologies. You have to compare modern PHP. PHP 8 is very capable. Hosting, yep. Again, the simplicity move, the idea that you don't need to go to AWS or Azure. You don't need these highly sophisticated, highly powerful, potentially very costly server options for 99.9% of web apps and websites. You don't need that type of infrastructure in terms of hosting. Most websites, shared hosting will be more than enough. Private VPS, which will cost you $100 a month for unlimited, maybe 150 or unlimited bandwidth with all kinds of capabilities. Yeah, simple hosting is more than enough for 99.9% of apps. And if you wanted to go crazy, Studioweb, my SaaS product, runs on a VPS, fully managed, and it works fine. It scales well. Of course, it's not as capable as AWS and Azure, but it doesn't need to be. 99% of apps don't need to be. So people going to AWS and Azure, that's more enterprise stuff. Again, use it. I'm not crapping on AWS and Azure. It's great, but this cloud stuff is it's not necessary most of the time. So as long as it's easy and cheap, that's fine. You can understand, shared hosting today is not what shared hosting was, 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. Server computers and bandwidth are so powerful now. For example, back in the 90s, I used to have a hosting company. When I started out, it was an ISDN line into my place, and which is basically a wimpy high-speed connection by today's standards. And I had one box with Windows Server on there, Windows NT. And I was hosting all kinds of websites, including my own, including websites financed by VC firms, and it never had a problem. That server computer, at the time, was pretty beefy. That server computer was far, far weaker than my my iPhone 12, which is like a 4-year-old iPhone. This iPhone has much more computing capability than my old server, which was handling all kinds of websites. So imagine today's servers, right? So yeah, simple hosting solutions are often enough. I would say for 99% of projects, they're more than enough. So you don't have to invest the time and energy and in the complexity of AWS and other cloud providers, even though they're very sophisticated and very capable. If you have a web app and you think it might grow into something where you would need AWS, well, if it gets to that point where you outlive shared hosting or a private VPS, which you probably never will, you can easily just migrate to AWS. You'll have the financing at that point to do it because your website's so popular. The next one, simple architectures. Virtualization is out. So this is related to hosting. We're talking Docker and other VMware and other virtualizations. I don't know what the latest ones are now. Again, these are great technologies. I'm not attacking any of these technologies. I think they're fantastic. But do you need them? Do you need to incur the actual cost, dollar-wise, and the technical cost of putting a layer of complexity like virtualization? I would say 99% of the times you don't. You don't. So people are starting to look at more simple architectures. Just write your code, deploy it where you go, which leads me to the next bullet point, DevOps. Again, DevOps was getting insanely, stupidly complex. I've been complaining about this for a while. It's starting to simplify now. Yeah, if you're a small team, 2, 3 people, 4 people, Git, simple branch architecture, that's all you need. If you're a single dev, I guess Git would be good just so you can have a backup and you can roll back changes if something happens. But you don't have to go crazy with the fancy pants DevOps. Keep it simple. My last point when it comes to simplicity, I'll just read my bullet point here. Code purity is for losers. People who want to make money concentrate on results, unit tests, super optimizations, out the window. Yeah, you don't want to start spending so much time writing rock solid code, especially for new websites and web apps, because you're going to be changing things. When you put out a new project, I can almost guarantee you're going to be changing so much about what the thing will become. Once you figure out what it really needs, it's going to change so much. So you don't want to have all that tech debt, the tech debt, where you have unit tests and super optimized algorithms or code in there. Not necessary, not for version 1, that's for sure. So yeah, concentrate on the results. Don't worry about code purity, especially when you put out a brand new app or a brand new site especially. Just get it out, make sure it's simple, make sure it's clean, understand the basic rules of refactoring, the basic design patterns. No God methods, use MVC, blah, 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 and you'll be fine. All right, bullet point number 2, I talked about this move towards freelance or SaaS business building rather than getting a job. So the bullet points. Big companies are laying off people now to cut costs. Now, I don't know what the rate of layoffs are, and this is normal. It will reverse itself after the COVID years where it was the boom, boom years. Boom, 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 boom. After you boom, 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 boom a lot, you need a rest. So they boom, boom, boomed, and now they're saying, whoa, we hired too many people. They fired a lot of people. They got too much going on. And now they're kind of, we might have a recession and we'll see what happens after the U.S. election. So we're going to take it easy. So people are sending in resumes, but they're not getting hired. Also, during the boom years, the COVID years, they were hiring, the requirements, the standards were very, very low because they were hiring defensively. We got to hire as many people as we can. So they stopped that now, so people have to adjust to reality. So what's the solution? The solution is to, well, first of all, always skill up. And you skill up by learning fundamentals and start building real things. What I do in my mentoring program is I have people actually go out there and do freelance projects. But so what people are doing now is after they've done hundreds of interviews with no results. Well, one thing you do, if you're having hundreds of interviews with no results, you should be in communication with these companies. Why didn't you hire me? What could I improve? What would have made a difference? And you may get no answers, but you might get a few answers. Another thing you can do is start being more strategic about where you're submitting your resume, how your resumes are designed, so that the bait is sweeter, right? It's sweeter. Don't just blast out a bunch of generic resumes. You got to target the resume to the particular employer you want to get hired by. But then again, okay, that aside, people are looking at doing their own thing, right? One of the oldest pieces of wisdom, fairy tale they taught when you were kids, They'd say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, meaning don't be so reliant on one thing. You know, you got to spread out your risk, spread out your opportunity. That's how the smart stock investors do. A little invested here, a little there, index funds. Same thing with your income. You know, freelance is an expression of that, where you have many small clients. That's the optimum. Many small clients, 10 plus, and each one of them is worth maybe 5 to 10% of your income. So if you lose a client, it's not a big deal. So people are looking at freelancing now because it is empowering. Because when you have many clients, small clients, and you got regular money coming in, you're not under anybody's control. No one person can tell you what to do. You can say, hey, I got another 10 clients, I got another 15 clients, I'm not taking your BS anymore, I don't want to work with you. That's power. That's empowering. So people are looking at freelance again. That might be an opportunity there. So freelancing is empowering. Freelancing is something to do. And it's not as impacted as the big companies. So the big companies, they hire and fire based on big macro movements in the economy. And yes, small businesses are affected, of course, by the economy. But you can still find lots of freelance jobs and gigs and out there, no matter what is happening in the environment, in the economy. As I suggested, freelancing is flexible. Lots of flexibility. You choose what clients you want to work with, when you work, how often you work, what technologies you're going to leverage, when you take vacations, etc., and so on. You want to work at between 1 in the morning and 6 a.m., perfectly fine. If you want to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's perfectly fine. It's the power of freelancing. So people are appreciating the flexibility of freelancing. The final bullet point here, SaaS development. So let me just read this bullet point here. SaaS, software as a service, is the ultimate expression of nerd power. I know, I've done it a few times. It's freaking hard to start a SaaS. Trust me on that one. For the most part, some people get it easy, but it's much more difficult. But when it works, you are Lord of Nerds, King of Nerds, even a small SaaS. So I've done that a few times. I have SaaSes where clients are in it, they're using it, again, software as a service, could be anything. And yeah, it's great. You got 100, 500 clients, you could have thousands of clients. And they each pay you a little bit, and whatever, monthly or whatnot, and you're making money, and it's very low stress. It's very low stress once you get it established. The problem is building a successful SaaS. It is of the independent software opportunities out there. You got freelancing, you got contract work, where you're basically a temporary employee. And then you got SaaS building. That's where you're an independent developer of some sort. The SaaS is the hardest to get going, most of the time, but also has the greatest opportunity and the greatest flexibility. It's pretty cool. So I've done all these things. I bounce around here and there, but there you go. So that was the broader point, number 2. That's freelance and SaaS business building versus, or rather than, getting a job. People are looking at that more and more for 2025. So I think, what does the future hold? So that's a good question. What does the future hold in terms of the economy? I think after the U.S. election, we're going to see some real fallout, because what they typically do during election season, they will pump up the economy artificially to make everybody look good to get elected. And then after the election happens, then the bottom drops out, and it might not be pretty, or 6 months from now it could be pretty good. Who knows? But we live in a very complex world with many variables, and you never know what might happen. That said, the old Uncle Stef rules I've been talking about for years have lots of FU money. So if you're a freelancer, you should have at least 1 year worth of FU money. That's emergency money, money that will pay all your bills for at least a year. You don't have to worry about making any money for a year. This is good. Pay off all your debts, make sure you're healthy, eat well, sleep well, drink lots of water. All very important, all part of the game. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, leave me a thumbs up. If you found this video, I don't know, it's angerifying. It angers you to no end. Give me 2 thumbs down. Show me how much you hate my stuff. If you like my hat, give me a thumbs up. If you like my hoodie, give me a thumbs up. I'm Uncle Stef. Let me know in the comments below what you think about what I talked about here. And if you have any questions, you can ask them below. I may answer.